spring has sprung, and after the prelude, Marvo Tilney will be lighting our flame joust. Our opening words are from a book titled Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Marie Brown. We are in an imagination battle. Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown and Renisha McBride and so many others are dead because in some white imagination they were dangerous. And that imagination is so respected that those who kill based on an imagined, radicalized fear of black people are rarely held accountable. Imagination has people thinking they can go from being poor to a millionaire as part of a shared American dream. Imagination turns brown bombers into terrorists and white bombers into mentally ill victims. Imagination gives us borders, gives us superiority, gives us race as an indicator of ability. I often feel I am trapped inside someone else's capability. I am trapped inside someone else's imagination, and I must engage my own imagination in order to break free. Wake Now My Senses is our first hymn. Let's sing. It's number 298. We join in the words of our unison affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros, and stay on your feet and say hello to someone you may not know. I've already teased him. Enough, 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 enough. Back to your places. All right, I'm looking for signs of spring. Yell out some signs of spring. Robins. What else you got, Vito? What? Short sleeves. Okay. Carla, what is that? Sandals. Okay. The first tick of spring. Oh, joy. Any other? What sign of spring? Rain. Rain. And yes? What's that? Flowers bloom. And how could you leave out the arrival of the first parish stewardship campaign? If you're here for the very first time, it's your lucky day. You will get a pledge packet, you'll get a pledge card, and if you're really good, you'll get a bowl of soup. And we hope that those bowls of soup will average out to be about $2,000 a bowl. So bear that in mind. Welcome, everybody. It is good to be together, whatever's working or not working in your life. This is a beloved community, and we're glad that you're here. Next Sunday, we are going to be welcoming, among other things, new members to First Parish, and there are a passel of new members, and if you would be interested in being a new member and are not already a member, there is our ancient and honorable membership book available for your signature at any time. Come see me or see Annie after the service and let us know if you have questions or anything else relative to membership. Last night there was a chili cook-off, and there is still some fire in my belly. And to report on the results of the chili cook-off, we have Linda Pollitz.
So if you are new to First Parish, one of the things that you will discover if you keep coming back is that we have tremendous cooks and tremendous appetites and delightful intergenerational events like our 10th annual chili cook-off last night. We had $589 was raised, and a number of people come with their very best recipe, and then people vote on whether or not it was the best meat, the best veggie, the hottest, the best youth chili, and the best in show. And I am happy to announce the winners. I will have with me in the common room afterwards. I'll just give you the first and runner-up choices. The best meat this year went to Sarah Thompson, a resounding win for Sarah, and actually Mark Bailey. We were so glad to have the Baileys back this year, also providing child care. Thank you. Mark, a very close runner-up. For our best veggie, we actually had a tie this year. We had Sarah Hannigan. Wow, hers was really good. And Jeff Bradford. The Bradfords almost single-handedly bring the chili for the chili cook-off. We love when they come. For the hottest chili, I'm sorry, there are no more Tums in the state of Massachusetts, and it's all thanks to Richie Conrad. Sarah Hannigan was a close run-up to him, and my daughter took a bite of that last night. You'll indulge me? She said, wow, this really kind of grows on you. I said, do you know what that is? She said, what? I said, that's menopause. Sarah Hannigan also took the best youth chili. And for best in show, again, another tie with Sarah Thompson and Mark Bailey. So thank you, one and all.
It's not like this every Sunday. And Linda is also a major player in an event that will take place this Wednesday at 6:30 at Building 4 at the VA hospital. We have an annual spring gathering with music and words and Casey at the bat and who knows what else. And if you would like to be a part of that, you're most welcome. It's an event that is very meaningful to the veterans, many of whom rarely have visitors, and so we'll be over there at 6:30 this coming Wednesday. One more thing, and that is that the next 2 Sundays, you're going to learn more than you ever thought you'd need to know about a theologian named Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a very important German theologian and pastor in the mid-20th century, and ultimately he was executed just days before the end of the Second World War for his participation in a plot to kill Hitler. And we will have on the 14th of April a one-man, one-hour performance of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a reenactor who does Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and we'll be speaking of his words from prison and his theology that led him to this activism. Next Sunday, as a prelude to the 14th, I will have my sermon just reviewing the basic idea of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, so you'll have some context to understand what happens the following Sunday. The actor who is performing on the 14th is named Al Staggs, and he has sent us a number of books that have included many of Bonhoeffer's writings, and we have these available after the service for $18 a copy. See me if you'd like to have a copy. And again, welcome everybody. It's good to be together. Annie, take it away.
Good morning. So this morning, I'm going to be talking a little bit about money and class. And when I say class, I don't mean the kind of class you go to at school or Sunday school. I mean social economic class. And class is a way that we talk about how much access people have to money and power. It's a way we talk about who has money and power and who has less money and power. And I've been going to a kind of a class, to a program, where I've been learning a lot about how to make the world a more fair place. It's a special 4-month program for people who are trying to make the world a better place and want to learn more about racism and other things that make our world unfair. And one of the things I learned so far at this program last time I went, it's all the way in California, and I'm gonna go again soon, so I'll be gone for a little bit. I learned about how our wealth, that is our money and our stuff, who has what amount of money and stuff in our country, and I thought it was really interesting and really upsetting. So I wanted to see if we could learn about it together this morning. And I'm gonna need 10 volunteers. Can y'all just start coming on up, and we'll get the right amount. I just have faith that we'll do it. It'll be right. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, maybe not. All right, we got 7, 8, 9. Oh, I need 11 actually. 10, 11, 10, 11, 12. Does 13. Do any of the adults want to sit down? Thank you. Perfect. All right. So I'm gonna have my who do you think is the smallest volunteer? We have this very smallest volunteer come all the way to this end. Okay. Because you know what, since you're the smallest, you're still very important, but just for this exercise, you're gonna be representing only 1/10 of the amount of people everyone else is representing, okay? You get to be the 1%. Very exciting. So you, my friend, can you tell me your name? Ella. Ella. You, Ella. get to be the top 1% in the United States who has 40% of the wealth in the United States. So you get a bag with 40 jelly beans. Don't open it, just keep it. All right. Now the next two people are representing the managerial class. You're actually 19% of the population since she's 1%. The adults can follow that, but don't worry about it. You're two people, and you get to share a bag of 49 jelly beans. Don't open it. The next four people are the middle class, and y'all get, sorry, I got that wrong. The next two people are the middle class, and y'all get 8 jelly beans. Yeah, you get 8 jelly beans. They got 49 jelly beans. She got 40 just for herself, but it gets worse. The next four people, see, who wants to be in the working class? Yeah, great. You do. You get to share between the four of you 3 jelly beans. 40% of the population controls 3% of the wealth. You are the poor, and you owe me a jelly bean. I don't know where you're going to get it, but you owe me a jelly bean. Does this seem like a good way to share our jelly beans? No, it doesn't. I didn't think so either. I think it's a really horrible way to share jelly bean, right? Yeah, you're like, that's super unfair, right? Look at them. They don't even have a jelly bean. They just have a piece of paper that says, you owe me a jelly bean. That's terrible. And it is really terrible. This is representing how money and resources like houses are distributed, right? In real life, in our actual society. What do you think we could do to make this a better situation? Do you have an idea?
I counted all the jelly beans just now and found out there were exactly 100 jelly beans in all.
You are correct. Very good math skills. Excellent. There were 100 jelly beans. That's true. He said he counted all the jelly beans and he realized there's 100 jelly beans total, which is true. I was trying to represent each jelly bean is a percentage, 1% of the wealth in the United States.
So we should get about 9 jelly beans for each person.
So we should get about 9 jelly beans for each person. I love that idea. Yes, round of applause, round of applause. Very good. That, my friend, is called socialism. No, but seriously, that's really smart, right? What you thought about was, you thought about how many jelly beans there are and how many people there are and how we could share evenly, which I think is a great idea. And you know where we practice doing something like that? Do you have any ideas of where we practice sharing what we have? Kindergarten, that's true. We do practice that in kindergarten. Here, yes! We practice that here. We all give money to this community, and then we get some things that we need from the community. We put in what we have, and we get what we need, and that is how we share in our church. That's how we share our money in our church. And I think that's really, really cool. And I think that's one of the things that can help us change this situation into more of what you're talking about with everybody gets 9 jelly beans. So here's the deal. At community hour, I'm going to put out a bowl with all the jelly beans. There's even more jelly beans in my office. And you all can have some jelly beans at community hour, and you can just share them equally or unequally, but you get to have what you need, right? So at community hour, you can look forward to even more jelly beans than you see here before you. But I'm going to recollect my jelly beans, and y'all are going to go to Sunday school. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Woo! Flying jelly beans. Some people are getting rid of their wealth. Throwing it away. Thank you. You can keep your paper if you want. All right, we're going to sing our kids off to Sunday school with Spirit of Life. Thank you all.
I'm lighting one final candle to represent all those joys and concerns that we keep silently in our hearts.
Will you join me for a moment of meditation, getting comfortable in your seat, whatever that looks and feels like for you, closing your eyes or gazing out the window at the trees, whatever works for you. And we'll take a breath together. In this time of spring, you can feel sometimes the joy and the growth happening. Yesterday, many of us may have felt the warm sun shining in a way we hadn't felt in a while and thought, oh, I missed that. Spring can be a wonderful time to open our hearts with gratitude for the beauties of this earth and for the cycles that bring us over and over again to what is new and growing and green. A moment to take in the good things that are coming. And spring is not always easy. Growth can be hard, new things can be hard, transitions can be hard. And for those who are holding difficult growth and difficult transitions, may you be nourished in this season and supported by all around you. We may also be feeling and noticing those losses, both recent and in the past, that which has died and gone into the earth to nourish us, that which is far away from us, where there is disconnection, that too is in this season. And we take a moment to acknowledge that. May all that has no longer served its purpose be part of that nourishing soil for us and for all our new endeavors as we continue to grow and move through the cycles of this earth, move through whatever season of life this is for you, knowing that in this community you can get what you need for support, for nourishment, and for love. May it be so. So, you get to have a little mini practice right now before I tell you about the very exciting practice of stewardship later. Now is the time when we collect our offering for the work of this congregation. And please be generous, and we will gratefully receive the offering at this time.
I'd like to point out to you that we have two soloists for this piece, but you won't hear them. The soloists will do, at the end of the piece, a sign interpretation of deep peace. So don't watch me, watch them.
When I was a senior in college, I spent a couple months living pretty much off rice and beans, oatmeal, and 1 meal a day in the school cafeteria. Now, this was because I had overdrawn my checking account. Yes, it was unfortunate. Lori, it's all right, I know. And I had overdrawn my checking account right before Christmas break. So the notices about this were going to my school mailbox, but I was at home where my parents were paying for things and I was eating their food and I didn't have to use my debit card for anything, so I wasn't trying to use it and getting turned down anywhere, and I didn't know what had happened until I came back to college and realized that fees had been steadily being applied to my account for having overdrawn and not doing anything about it, and I was pretty deep in the hole. So I decided, first of all, to call my bank and see what they would do for me, which they were willing to forgive quite a few of the fees that I had accrued during this time. And second of all, that I had really better figure out a way to get through that semester on my work-study income, which was not a huge amount of income. I was working in my school's chapel, doing sort of administrative tasks for the chaplains. And so that led me to the rice and beans, oatmeal, and 1 meal a day in the cafeteria diet, since my parents had prepaid the meal plan and I could go to the cafeteria. And I became quite adept at skills that unfortunately many college students in our society have to use all the time, which is how to get the most bang for your buck when you swipe into that cafeteria, how to load up that plate with all kinds of nutritious food, and how to put fruits in your pocket so that when you leave, you're going out with something. Yeah. I had this idea at that time that I had to fix this all by myself, that I could not possibly tell my parents what had happened or ask them for help. The thing is, I could have done that. But I had this story and this feeling in my body. I wasn't even sure exactly where it came from. See, my upbringing was sort of a little bit of a mixed class or class ascending upbringing. We kind of started over here in the kind of upper end of the working class part of this jelly bean scheme, part of that 40% that shares 3 jelly beans. My dad didn't have a college degree. He had learned his trade as an electrician in the Navy. But my mom did have a master's degree, in fact, but she wasn't working. And so based on my dad's income and job, for a while we moved around a lot. We moved 5 times by the time I was 8. And we had to live with my grandparents for a while. Housing wasn't always stable. But before too long, my dad got the job he really wanted at Illinois State University on their staff, being part of the maintenance team. And from there on out, things got really stable. And after a while, my mom started working too at a community college, and we started moving on up to the little middle class section where 20% are sharing 8 jelly beans. That's much better ratio. And so we were living there. And by the time I was in college, after a family friend had died and left us some money, and my grandparents had died and left us some money, we were doing fine. I had no reason that I couldn't have reached out to my parents when I made the stupid mistake of overdrawing my bank account to get support, but I still carried in me an anxiety that I had probably internalized as a very young kid, moving around all the time, not always sure of how it was going to go. And I think that happens to a lot of people. I see nods out there, and I'm betting that some of you feel like, yep, I know how that is. That's part of my story. That's somewhere in my life too, that feeling. And I noticed that there can be a kind of a shame and anxiety that can come from not knowing if you're going to have enough. But then as I got older, I learned that there can also be a shame and anxiety from feeling like you have too much. I learned this through my partner Lucas. When we were in premarital counseling getting ready for our wedding, we were, of course, talking about money like you're supposed to. And we were specifically talking about the trust fund from which he benefited and how I did not understand how he could know so little about it. It's like your money. How do you not understand how it works? But he said, no, I mean, my dad doesn't tell me anything about it, and it's very confusing, and I didn't even know about it till I turned 18, and it was like a family secret. So the next time we came back to therapy, our couples counselor actually told us, you know, I Googled your family, and I learned a lot. This idea he was saying that he couldn't possibly know about it was not true, right? He could have learned about it, but he didn't really want to look at it. There was a shame there about this unearned money. Why did he have this thing that other people didn't get, and should he really deserve it? And maybe if he just ignored it, it would go away. And that's not how that works either, right? I think it can be really hard a lot of the time to talk about class and money because of that shame. And I think a lot of it is wrapped up in the fact that we tell a morality story about money. We have this story that the best way to be a good person in our capitalist American society is to earn your living and do it yourself. So if you're up here and you just kind of had things handed to you, well, that's not good because you didn't earn it. And if you're down here, the story says, well, that's because you didn't work hard enough or you did something wrong, and you're probably a bad person. And these stories are so incredibly harmful. They hurt everybody. Now, I'm not trying to say they hurt everyone equally, because clearly the people down here are like literally not surviving sometimes, and the people up here have everything. So when I'm talking about this hurting everyone, I'm real clear that it hurts some people in a very real, material, physical way, while other people benefit substantially. But I do think that these stories about money hurt us all spiritually, even though they benefit some of us materially. And so I think it's really important to explore what's really happening instead of telling these stories. So part of how we do that is by looking at what is true in the big scheme, right? Part of how we do that is by taking in the thing that we learned with the jelly beans, but really taking it in. It's cute when you're giving jelly beans to kids, but it's not cute when people can't afford housing, can't afford health care, can't afford food. Then it's not cute, and it's really devastating. We do have to look at what's really there, both what's really there for our own self, what stories we've internalized from where we came from and from where we are now, what we really do have in our bank account or in investments or in our house or our car, and what we really don't have and what we need. But we also have to look at the big picture, because as the reading said this morning, we're in an imagination battle. And these stories are all tied up in this imagination. As it said in the reading, that we imagine that you can go from being poor to being a millionaire if you just work hard enough and earn the American dream. There's this whole imagination that's been constructed around money and class, but we can imagine something different. And I know that many of us already do and have been imagining something different for a really, really long time. Imagining something different doesn't necessarily have to mean you go off and live in a commune where everybody shares everything together, right? Imagining something different can be in smaller practices. Like some friends of mine who one of them decided he really needed to actually look at his financial situation after years of doing that kind of like, oh, maybe I just won't look at it and it'll be fine mentality that many of us have. When he realized that his parents were in a pretty bad financial situation, he said, oof, I gotta really like do this. And luckily he had a friend who works in financial advising. And so that friend wanted music lessons, and this guy was a musician, so they said, hey, cool, you give me financial lessons, I give you music lessons. Another way, a different imagination about economy. I see you guys doing this all the time on the Anno list. Somebody says, hey, I need this. Somebody says, hey, I have this. And you just like put it out there so you can share it together. I see this in all kinds of virtual settings. There's Facebook groups for this. I think you have one in Bedford. I know there's one in Jamaica Plain where I live. It's very active. People are doing all kinds of sharing on that Facebook group. And these models, what I've noticed is that they don't often come from the imaginations of those with more in our society, the people on this end. They often come from the imaginations of those who have to do that to survive because there's literally no other way. I was talking yesterday to an asylum seeker who is newer to the United States and who I came to know through the immigration network I'm part of. And he was telling us about how in jail, the people who have families here in the US, the people who have been living here for a while before they were detained, they're the ones who have to share the money with the people who just arrived and have nobody here who can put money on their account. Because if you don't have money, you can't buy a stamp to send a letter to a lawyer or an organization. You can't make a phone call to anybody. You can't have any reprieve from the terrible food by buying a snack in the canteen. And he said, we relied on them and they shared with us. And that was so important, and that's what you guys do. That's what you guys do. And I was so moved because that's how I've always thought about our network Beyond, that we're just trying to match what people do inside with folks who are outside and have access to so much more wealth. That's what our bond fund is about. That's what our whole network is about. The folks who are here, who have resources here, we can share with the folks who don't. That mutual aid that's practiced out of absolute necessity in jail can be practiced out of spiritual commitments for those of us for who it is an option. I have been so impressed with the generosity and the mutual aid of the immigrant community the more I do this work. And I know it's not just in immigrant communities. I know it's in poor and working class communities all over, of all different backgrounds. There was a different young man who was an asylum seeker also, and just a few months after he had arrived here, when he had a job working at a restaurant and was living in an apartment with some coworkers, he came to a dinner at my house and he gave us $100 to me and my housemate. And we were like, don't give us your money, dude. Like, you really need it. And he said, no, I'm doing well now. I have a job. I have a place to live. I trust you guys and you helped me. And so I'm giving you what I can. I trust you guys and you helped me. And I'm doing okay now. I have a job and a place to live, so I'm giving you what I can. I think we also do that here. Has anybody been helped by somebody here? Anybody ever been helped out here? Yeah. Yeah. Do any of you trust the people who run this place? Yeah, yeah. John does, that's good. I'm glad to know it. It really, I think, is a beautiful thing to create a community of mutual aid where you get help and you give what you can when you have what you need. It's a beautiful spiritual practice, and I think it is one of the best ways we can strengthen our imagination, strengthen our ability to think outside of this system that gives some people so much and some people nothing at all, into a different way of being in this world. And so for me, a stewardship drive is such an exciting thing because you get to practice being in a different economy, in a different system, in mutual aid and mutual support. And I get really excited about that. As you've been hearing, you can pick up your pledge card today. You can turn it in anytime before April 27th. And you also can get soup, which is great. Because you know what? When I was a kid growing up, we had this sign on the wall that, like a painting, and it said, "At the table of peace will be bread and justice." And I like that because you can get soup and stewardship, which is sort of like bread and justice. And I truly think that is true, the kind of deep peace that we were just hearing about in that beautiful offertory music, the peace that the choir has been singing about today and will sing us some more at the end. That peace will come when we fix this jelly bean situation, when we have enough bread for everybody and some justice. That's the way to peace. And so I encourage you to get that pledge card and go home and talk to your loved ones and look at what really is. If there's some shame stories getting in your way from your past or your present, things that are going on in your life, take some time to sit with that and try to clear some of that out of the way so you can really look and just see, all right, what do we got here? And how are we spending our money? And how can we give generously to this beautiful mutual aid society where we get to practice getting out of the unfair system into a generous community mentality. Now, I'm going to do that too. I'm going to go home and talk about it, and I'm excited because it's been a while since my partner and I have talked about pledging. We have 4 churches now. It's a lot of churches. He works at a church, First Parish in Dorchester. Now I work at this church. And then we also have 2 churches we attend, which is Hope Central in Jamaica Plain. We attend an evening service there on Sundays. And then the Sanctuary Boston, which you're actually going to get to hear about next week because they're the Share the Plate gift. I was going to talk about them, but I won't be here, which is sad. But just heads up, they're wonderful, so keep that in mind next week. So when we first started pledging, we just decided, okay, we're going to do 100 a month for all of our spiritual communities. It just kind of seemed like a nice even number, and we had a bunch of spiritual communities, but I'm really excited to actually sit down and talk more about it. I'm making more money in my salary now that I work here. Like, now we have 4 spiritual communities. I don't know, there's a lot to talk about, and I'm excited to figure it out. So I hope you're also feeling excited. This world is really harsh, and it's really cruel, and it's really unfair. It's horrible the way that things are distributed so terribly unequally across our society. But we do not have to live in somebody else's imagination of greed and domination. We can live in our collective imagination of mutual aid and radical generosity and real care. Let's keep doing it. Will you please join in our closing hymn? It is Love Will Guide Us. I think it's 131. I hope it's 131. It is. Love will guide us. be our guide into this future of our collective imagination. Let us follow love on that path.